Hello, my book besties. We are back with another monthly reading wrap up. We're going to talk about all the books that I read in May, and I'm super excited for this wrap up for a couple different reasons. Oh, hello. You got stinky breath. I need to brush your teeth today, huh? Can you go? Go. 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 First of all, this was a phenomenal reading month. I read 16 books. Babe, I'm gonna need you to not squeak your toy. Baby, I'm gonna have to lock you out of the room. I don't want to, but I will. Okay. I'm so sorry. You have to go now. Bye. Bye. Okay, first of all, this was a phenomenal reading month because I read 16 books in the month of May, which is a lot of reading. I feel like I was just really in the reading mood, and I set a TBR that I really wanted to get through like at the beginning of the month, and this is the most exciting part. I read my entire TBR. It is very rare that I will set a TBR and actually stick to it, and I stuck to it so well and so closely this month. Like, I think every single book that I put on my May TBR I did read, which is really exciting. I also had some really great books too, and I had a wide variety of genres. I feel like we had a really good balance. I'm feeling good about this month. I'm excited to talk about all these books. There are a lot to talk about, so I want to get started. We can just jump right in, but I did want to like share my little wins for the month because I never ever stick to a TBR, and the fact that I totally crushed it this month and read 16 books, I just knocked it out of the park. Good job, me. Also, before we jump in, this shirt, this is not sponsored, but this is from Allie Rose Co., I think. Let me make sure I'm getting that right. Yes, this is from Allie Rose Co., and this, like I said, isn't sponsored, but she's so sweet and just like the cutest little shop, and this is her new merch line, and it says Hot Girls Read Book Club, and she sent me little bookmarks, and I got a crew neck and a t-shirt, and I adore her. She's super sweet. So if you like this and you want to twin with me, go check out Allie Rose Co. I'll try to remember and link her down below. Super sweet. Support her small business. She's just amazing. All right, let's jump into these books or we're going to be here all day long. Okay, so first I read the last two books in the Good Girl's Guide to Murder series. So I read Good Girl, Bad Blood and then As Good as Dead. And I finally had to switch to the audio of these because I was not feeling it. I was just not into this series as much as I thought I would be. And of the series, I would say book 3 was my favorite because I won't spoil anything. I was going to say what the plot is, but I won't spoil anything. I thought book 1 was okay. I included that in a reading vlog. I think it's like reading the books that have been in my TBR the longest. So if you want more thoughts on like the first starting book in Good Girl's Guide to Murder, check out that vlog. But I just was underwhelmed by this series as a whole. I just went in, I think I went in with unfairly high expectations because I had heard phenomenal things about this series from everybody, and then I was just a little bit let down. I think maybe I just was expecting more, expecting different. I'm just not a huge YA person in general, so these books were not my cup of tea. I wouldn't say I disliked them, but they're all like 3-star reads for me. I can't remember if I gave a Good Girl, Bad Blood 2 stars. I think I gave all of these books 3 stars, but the middle book is definitely my least favorite. If I were to order them from my favorite to my least favorite, I would say As Good as Dead is my first favorite, and then the first book, A Good Girl's Guide to Murder, and then the third book, Good Girl, Bad Blood, is my least favorite. But I do think I rated them all in the 3-star range. Then we really did not start out the month strong because I went into More Than Words by Mia Sheridan, and this was kind of like a spur of the moment. If you watched my May TBR video, you saw this was like a spur of the moment add to my TBR, and I have mixed opinions on Mia Sheridan. Like, I love Archer's Voice, and then Most of All You, I think is what it's called, I thought was like just okay. Like, I couldn't even remember many details about that book. It's just forgettable to me. This one, I like actively disliked this book, and I hate saying that because I know so much goes into writing a book, and I just always feel bad at saying anything negative about an author's work. But for me personally, I just did not like this book at all. I did not enjoy the storyline. I thought it was weird and out there, and I didn't like the characters. I didn't connect to the characters. The male main character in this book was absolutely insufferable. I could not stand him. Callan Hayes. What's the saying? Like, if Callan Hayes has 100 haters, I am one of them. If he has 1 hater, I am it. If he has no haters, I am dead. I am a Callan Hayes hater. Like, I just could not support him, like him, root for him. He ruined the book for me, to be totally honest. This, as I'm speaking so highly of it, you can probably guess, this was a 2-star read for me, and honestly, that feels generous. I just did not like this book whatsoever. Then we had a major winner, and that is A Love Letter to Whiskey. I am in love with this book, and I like went down the rabbit hole of Love Letter to Whiskey TikTok after reading this, and everyone's like, this is the most toxic story, like this is such an unhealthy relationship, and I was sitting there like, yikes, because I thought this was sweet. I thought it was romantic. I related to it. I felt like I was in love with their story and in love with the characters, and I was like, am I toxic? Like, am I the problem? Could never be me. This follows Jamie and B, and basically just years of right person, wrong time, and they have arguments and disagreements and miscommunication and dating other people, and they hurt each other, and it's just raw, and I think it's honest, and I think that's why I enjoy this book so much, is it felt like a really honest representation of human relationships and the complications of like romantic relationships, and it's honest. Like sometimes situations just don't work out, but the love is so real, and I just adored this. This is the 5th anniversary edition, and I would highly recommend getting this edition because you have like a bonus novella in the end, which gives Jamie's perspective. So A Love Letter to Whiskey is on our female main character B's perspective, and then the 5th edition has a novella that is in our male main character's perspective, and I highly recommend getting the 5th edition if you can, or the 5th anniversary edition, because I loved the novella, and I feel like that was really important and really added to the story. Oh, I should tell you my rating for this. I gave this 4.5 stars, but I think I would round it up to a 5-star. I like thoroughly enjoyed this. I cried. I was highlighting, I was laughing, I cried. I just like, wow. I also love the friendship in this book. I feel like it was just so multifaceted. Like there were so many different connections and plot points, and so relatable, like so much relatability in this book. I loved it. I really loved it. So I rated it 4.5, but I might round it up to a 5-star. And another book that I loved, Heartless by Elsie Silver. I ate this up, and I read Flawless, book 1 in the Chestnut Springs series last summer. I was not impressed. Like everyone was talking about Chestnut Springs, and I just didn't like it. It felt like I was just reading smut to be smutty. Like I felt no connection to the main characters. Like it didn't do anything for me. I think I gave it 3 stars. This book I am in love with. This follows Cade, who is a single dad, and Willa, who actually gets hired as a nanny. And Willa is the female main character from the first book's best friend, and Cade is the male main character's brother, if that makes sense. I hope that I said that right. This is like extreme Grumpy Sunshine, and that's so rare for me to fall in love with a Grumpy Sunshine book. Normally a grumpy male main character is a big turnoff for me, but I loved Cade. But even more so, I'm obsessed with Willa. Talk about like a strong female lead. I'm in love with her. She's one of my favorite female main characters of all time. She's up there with the girls from the Windy City series for me. Like I adore her. Absolutely adored her. And she was hilarious. Like this book had me laughing, physically laughing out loud, multiple different occasions. I just fell in love with this story, even though it's tropes I normally don't opt for. Like Single Dad Nanny and Grumpy Sunshine are normally not my cup of tea. I fell in love with this. So I highly recommend. This has made me excited to continue the Chestnut Springs series. Like it redeemed the full series for me. Now I'm excited to jump into book 3. If you watched my June TBR video, you see which book I'm starting next. But I just am in love with this. I gave this 4.5 stars. Then I read 2 fantasies, which is big for me. I'm normally not a fantasy reader, but I finally read Powerless by Lauren Roberts. I feel like this was the most perfect intro beginner fantasy book. There was heavy on the romance, like heavy on the romance, and I ate it up. I love a good romance. I also feel like this is good for like intro beginner fantasy or anyone just looking for a lighter fantasy, because the world building and like the fantasy elements are really easy to understand. It felt like Hunger Games meets Shatter Me meets a romance book. I loved it. I loved it so much. I also like really enjoyed the quotes in this book. I annotated this book, and annotating I feel like is something I decide like halfway through a book. I'm like, there's enough quotes in here that have really spoken to me that I'm going to go back and highlight them. So I ended up annotating this book, and that says something. I only annotate books where I'm like absolutely in love with the writing. After reading this, I dug into Lauren Roberts a little bit more. She's like very young. Like I want to say like 19 years old, and this was her debut novel. girl, you knocked it out of the park. Like, you are killing it. I love this. And I normally am not a fantasy reader. I know I said that. And to love a fantasy this much is huge. So I gave this 4 stars. I thoroughly enjoyed it, and I'm very excited for Reckless. Is that the one that's coming out? See, I get confused because we have the Chestnut Spring series, which is like Flawless, Powerless, Reckless. And then we have this, which I think is Powerless, Powerful, Reckless. Is it Reckless? Either way, the second book is coming out in July, I believe, and I'm super excited. This was a 4 star for me. I can't remember if I already told you that. Did I already tell you that this was a 4 star? Either way, solid 4 star for me. Thoroughly enjoyed. And then if you watched my Spend a Mental Health Day with me, you saw that I spur of the moment picked up Powerful at Target because it was on sale for like $7. And I was like, I need that. So I picked it up, brought it home, and binged this in 2 sittings, I think. It's a novella, so it was really short and really sweet and easy to get through. This is Adina's point of view, which is the best friend of our female main character in Powerless. I cried. Normally novellas like don't hit me in the feels just because they're so short and there's not like a ton of build-up. There's not a lot of time for you to really feel like you're connected with the characters. Like normally novellas are just like 3-star ratings for me, and that's pretty standard. This like really touched me, really impacted me. I almost would say I preferred this over Powerless. I loved this book, and I loved Mac, like the male main character in this book. I'm obsessed with him, maybe even more so than Kai from our first book. No, I take that back. But I did love Mac. This was another 4 star for me, and for a novella, 4 stars is basically like a 5 star. Like, I just cannot believe that Lauren Roberts is so young and so new to writing. Like, she is fabulous. Absolutely fabulous. If you were like me and you've been procrastinating the series, do not procrastinate it anymore. And if you were someone in my comments telling me to get on it and read this series, thank you so much. I thank you for your service. I'm talking too much. My sister, I got an orchid. One of my guy friends got me an orchid, and I may or may not have already like murdered it. Why are orchids so hard to keep alive? Like, I don't understand. But my sister texted me, I have an orchid for you to kill. Rude. But also, can I actually have it? I said rude, but not wrong. The worst at like keeping things alive. Like, me and my dog is pretty much all I can handle. I do have like some plants in my house that I've kept alive, but don't trust me with anything advanced because I will absolutely kill it like as soon as I possibly can. Not on purpose. I just suck. Okie doke. And then we're gonna fly through these next 3 because they are actually in a reading vlog. So if you want in-depth thoughts on these summary rom-coms, go check out my Reading New Release Romance for a Week vlog because we go in-depth on all of these. First, I have This Summer Will Be Different by Carly Fortune. This is her new release and one of my most anticipated new releases for the year. I read this super duper quickly. It was really easy, really fun, really sweet, and just like the perfect bingeable beach read for the summertime. I really loved Every Summer After by Carly Fortune. I didn't like the conflict, but I really loved that book. I did not like her second book, Meet Me at the Lake. That was one of my most anticipated reads for last year, and it was a really big letdown for me. So going into this, I was hesitant because I was like, one book I really enjoyed, one book I really did not enjoy, and she has a trope that she continues through her first 2 books that I hate the trope so much, so I was very scared that that was going to continue again. But it didn't, hallelujah, and I enjoyed this book a lot. I wouldn't say it was anything like super meaningful or super impactful for me personally, but I did enjoy kind of like the plot and the premise, and it was fun. It was just a fun read. I feel like fun is the best way to sum this up. This is essentially like a best friend's brother romance, but the best friend doesn't know that there's a romance between the brother and the best friend, so kind of a forbidden love as well. And also summary, very small town and second chance romance. So we have dual timeline of going back and forth between 2 different timelines and seeing the conflict and the buildup and everything that's led us to the present day. Does that make any sense, what I just said? Probably not. Go watch the vlog. I explain it way better over there. I'm a sucker for dual timeline in a book, and honestly, the formatting of this book won bonus points because like, look at the flop of this book. Like it's just like perfect. So it was a very fun read in all ways possible. I ended up giving this 3 stars, I think, maybe 3.5. I think I give this 3 stars. I would say it's just like a really fun baseline summary rom-com if you're looking for something fun and bingeable. It also made me want to go to Prince Edward Island so bad. which I don't know where that is. I think it's on the East Coast, isn't it? In Canada, on the East. It'll probably be a long flight, but I want to go there so bad now. And I read Mistakes We Never Made by Hannah Brown. This was also one of my most anticipated new releases because I'm a Hannah Brown fan from The Bachelor and The Bachelorette. This book really let me down. I feel like there are multiple different elements that, again, I go in depth in my reading vlog, so if you want to know more about my thoughts, like, definitely check that out. I did not like our female main character, and to be honest, I think that's the biggest thing that turned me off of this book. I just didn't like her at all. She was controlling and demanding and bossy and just kind of a busybody, and she frustrated me, and she was violent and aggressive. She just kind of turned me off. It also felt very outlandish and ridiculous at times, where it was like rom-coms can sometimes get away with that. Like, if you've read Just for the Summer, like unicorn floaty status, if you know, you know. But this book, it felt so outlandish at times that I was like, what am I reading? Like, this is just too much. This was a 2.5 star for me. I really didn't enjoy it. I could be fun to read if you're strictly looking for something fluffy, but if you're looking for something like with depth or meaning, like, probably not the book for you. I don't know. I think if I wasn't so turned off by our female main character, I would have liked it a lot more, obviously. So if you like the female main character, this could be a really fun and fluffy read. I don't want to turn anyone off of reading this because it could be a great book for you. I personally just didn't jive with one of our main characters, and so that really hindered my reading experience. Then the last book in that vlog was The Paradise Problem. This was my favorite of the vlog. This we have Fake Marriage, Opposites Attract, and a little bit of Grumpy Sunshine. I wouldn't say he's grumpy, but he's like more, I think I described him as like straight-laced in the reading vlog, and she's very like wild. She has hot pink hair, like she's just kind of crazy and chaotic, and she's brought around like his very wealthy, well-to-do, like prim and proper, put together family, and they have to fake a marriage. This is really flirty, really fun. Christina Lauren is my favorite author that does like fake dating or fake marriage. That's normally not a trope that I opt for just because it feels a little bit unrealistic for me sometimes, and just like sometimes it can be just cringy and kind of weird, but they do it so well every single time. I love The Unhoneymooners by them, which is another fake marriage book, and they make it in a way that it's like believable and just quirky and funny. This book was hilarious and deep and emotional at the same time. I thoroughly enjoyed this one. Perfect read for the summertime. 3.5 stars for this. Then a book that I've been wanting to read for so long now. I read The Two of Us. I love this book. I love this book. I know I said this in my May TBR video, but I picked this book up solely based on the dedication. I saw the dedication on like an aesthetic annotated page on Pinterest, and I dug through the comments to figure out the title of the book, and I picked it up solely based on the dedication page. I went into this completely blind, and I was not disappointed. If you're looking for a really great, really sweet and meaningful standalone romance, I highly recommend this book. It's definitely emotional, definitely heartfelt, plot twists and turns, and this just made me feel all the feels. I was in love, I was sad, I was happy. It just made me feel everything all at once, and so beautifully done in a standalone format. I love this book. 4-star read for me. Highly would recommend this. Then I have the monthly book club pick for a book club I'm in, and that is In the Likely Event by Rebecca Yarros. This book was fun. It was really easy to read. Like, if you're looking for just something quick and easy, really fun. This is another actually dual timeline second chance romance, and I feel like there's a lot of those in this wrap up, but that's okay. I love them. Can you tell? I love dual timeline. This book felt, this is what I said at book club, it felt unrealistic to me. Like, the romance that was built in this book, it just felt a little bit unrealistic how in love they were with each other based on their history. The more I learned about the history, the more I wanted like more history between them, I guess. But it was really sweet. It was romantic. There were quotes and lines in this book that I really enjoyed. I thought our male main character was super sweet in particular. I didn't love the female main character as much. I just couldn't really connect to her, but I was still rooting for them, and I thought it was a fun romance. I ended up giving this 3.75 stars. I would recommend. I enjoyed it, and I'm really glad I finally read it. This has been on my TBR for a very long time. Then I read 2 Katherine Center books, and I think I've officially read all of her books, I believe. So first I read Happiness for Beginners, and you guys, I hate to say it, this book did nothing for me. Nothing. And I am a Katherine Center super fan. Like, one of my favorite authors, an absolute auto-buy author for me. Like, I adore her. Every single book she writes, I will eat it up. I hated that I didn't like this book. I am upset with myself. I put it on Goodreads that I'm like blaming myself, like maybe it's right book, wrong time. Like I'm assuming I'm the problem. And some of you guys commented like, no, you're not the problem. I found that book really boring as well. And I think boring is the best way to describe it. Like there's nothing I actively disliked about this book. I know it was trying to be meaningful and I know it was trying to be thought-provoking and like deep and emotional, and it was to some extent, but I was so dang bored reading this. I felt like nothing was going on. It's basically like a women's fiction book with a romance subplot, which is a lot of Katherine Center books I feel read like that. And it's about Helen, who is newly divorced and signs up for like a wilderness camp, and it's basically just about her like gaining a different perspective about life and about the world through this wilderness camp. And there's a romance going on at the same time, which was fun to read about. I ended up giving this 2 stars, which physically pained me. I don't like giving Katherine Center anything, honestly, below like a 4-star because I love her. But this book just, I have to be honest, it just wasn't it for me personally. And then I read Everyone is Beautiful. This one was super quick, super short book. I think it's like 250 pages. I read this in one sitting, and this book, I definitely don't think I was the target audience for this book to begin with. It's definitely about motherhood and being a wife and being a mom, which I obviously personally can't relate to because that's not my life. But it was fun. It was really easy to read if you're looking for like a quick bingeable sit down in one sitting and just read it cover to cover. Definitely an easy read, but I just didn't connect to our main character, and I didn't love how some deeper topics were almost like covered in a lighthearted way. It felt kind of irresponsible to me. I would say definitely a trigger warning for like body image or disordered eating and food conversation. And also there's another deeper topic. I wouldn't say necessarily trigger warning, but something that comes later in the book. 2 things that come later in the book that are almost turned into jokes, and they are like not funny things to joke about. And I was really disappointed that Katherine Center did this. I know this is one of her earlier books. Like I think this was written a long time ago, and I don't know that she would cover it the same way now. I obviously can't speak for her, but I was really disappointed to see her, because I think she normally does a really beautiful job covering emotional, deeper topics. I was really disappointed to see her making a joke out of something that is actually not funny at all. I gave this 3 stars on Goodreads, and I think I honestly might bump it down to 2 or 2.5 as I'm talking about it. Like it's really just not setting well with me. The jokes made towards the end of this book about 2 specific situations in general, like something about it just really rubbed me the wrong way. I still love Katherine Center. I know there was no malicious intent whatsoever. It just didn't set well with me personally because of lived experience, and this book just like, it wasn't my cup of tea. So like I said, it was a 3-star, but I think I might bump it down to a 2.5. You're almost done here, you guys. I have Better Than the Movies by Lynn Painter, which you guys were not joking. This book is so cute and such an easy read. I am normally not a YA person. Like I like adult romances way more than YA. I normally find YA to be a little bit cringy. Like I'm just not the target audience for YA romances anymore. But this is set in high school, and I ate it up like I was a high school senior all over again. I loved the rom-com elements of this. Like rom-com movies are a big part of this story. Every chapter starts off with a quote from a popular rom-com movie, which was really fun. I really loved both our main characters. I just thought this book was really great. I ended up giving this 4 stars, which is huge for me for a YA romance. I'm not a YA person at all, and I love this. So if you're looking for a good romance with little to no spice, like very closed door, no spicy scenes, no smut, definitely check this out. It's just super sweet and fun to read. Last but not least, I read I Let You Go, and this is a thriller slash romance kind of. Like there are so many different elements to this book, and I'm not going to say much about this one because I went in reading the blurb with an entirely different perspective and an idea of what I was about to read that was not at all accurate, and I think that I like that I did that. So I'm not going to over explain myself and like explain the plot of this book, because I think going in a little bit blind to this one, read the blurb and then just go into it, that is half the fun. The plot twist in this book got me, like my jaw was on the floor on multiple different occasions. The writing in this like is done in a way where like I just never really was sure that anything was true or honest. I don't know. This has dual POV, which I thought was really fun as well. And one side of the dual POV is like more mystery with a romance subplot, and the other side of the dual POV almost reads more like a mystery thriller. I just feel like combining those two elements where it's unique and I like how it was done. I would highly recommend this book. I don't see anybody talking about this like ever. I think I randomly saw this on Pango Books for really cheap and I picked it up, and I'm so glad that I did and so glad I finally read it. It's been sitting on my TBR for so long now. Highly would recommend this book. 4-star read for me. Really phenomenal. All right, y'all, those are the 16 books that I read in the month of May. I had some good ones. I had some that weren't so good, in my opinion, but I also had some good ones. I hope that you enjoyed this monthly wrap up. I know there was a ton, but I'm super proud of myself for sticking to my TBR and reading all the books that I wanted to, and then some, reading the new releases I wanted to. It was just a really fun reading month. I was just really feeling it. Sometimes I get in like a slumpy mood around this time of year, but clearly no slump here. I was just flying through them, and please know that reading is part of my job. Like, part of my career is to make TikTok content. And so I just never want you to compare like the amount that you read to me, because it is truly part of my job. I do have another job that I also do for like the main bulk of my income. So like, yes, I am also working, but this is a big part of my career and my life on like this side of my career. So just please never compare, because if I was working a 9-to-5 or if I had kids or any other circumstances, like I could not read this much. So I'm very fortunate in that aspect. So please just never, ever compare the amount that you're reading to me. That's not important and it's not what it's about. But that said, I do hope you got some new recommendations or found some new books from this video. Leave a comment down below. Tell me your favorite book that you read in the month of May. That's all I have for you today. Thank you so much for watching and hanging out with me for another month of reading. Make sure you're following me on all the things. I'll link them all down below, and make sure you're subscribed here so you don't miss future videos. I'll catch you in the next one. Bye, book besties.